Welcome to the Metal Prognosis. My name is Lee, and on today's Pedal to the Metal, we're looking at another TC Electronic pedal here. Now, I've had kind of mixed results with TC Electric pedals. Excuse me, just while I get this all out of its case and that, because this one just arrived in the mail, and it is definitely well wrapped up. Like the Dark Matter pedal did some amazing stuff, transforming my Fender hot rod amp into something really good and usable. And other pedals I've been a bit not sure. But this one, I'm very keen to see how it sounds. The Fangs metal distortion. It's a big unit, which is cool. Got a few different switches here, raw, fat and scoop. Treble bass, got a nice gain. Yeah, so I'm very keen to see how this is going to sound and what inspires me to actually compose. So like all our Pedal to the Metal videos, we'll put a camera to this, we'll dial in a tone together and I'll talk through my thoughts. We'll see what that inspires me to compose and record. Then I'll record it, share it with you, and then we'll have our final thoughts after it. So let's put this pedal under the spotlight and see how it holds up. Now we have everything set up, ready to go. Let's grab my little Jackson guitar here. Like all my Pedal to the Metal videos, this is what the guitar sounds like clean. But no one cares about clean. We want some dirty sounds. So let's get this little bad beast engaged. So first thing I'm going to do is turn the volume and the gain down. We'll set it to raw and just see, we'll flick through all the settings though. So give it some power, turn the volume up at about just half. Give me a bit more volume. Yeah, so straight away, as soon as we engage it, we start hearing some of the pedals' characteristics, which I love in pedals when they do that. I don't like a volume, when you engage it and the volume just gives you more volume, and that's it. So that's really cool. So, won't worry about bass and treble just yet. No, actually, screw it. Let's check it out now. So. So that's pretty cool. So that shows us that there's a lot of really nice frequencies there that they are altering and having some cool effects. So now that we know that, we can utilize that later. So let's hear what the gain sounds like when we start engaging it. So I'll just add a little bit in. Crank it. So it's starting to get a little bit squealy now because we are pushing it to the absolute max, which is understandable. So I'll dial it back just a tad so we don't get that squeal, which we don't. So dial it back again just to refresh our memory what it's like when the gain's down. Alright, not too bad, not too bad. So let's try out the 3 different settings here. That's raw. So let's say we want a fat sound. So they've got a fat option. That is worlds apart compared to what we had a second ago. So let's see how the gain reacts now with the fat setting on compared to the raw. So this is its all the way down. That's really interesting. So let's see if we can just spend just a tad bit more time with this one. So there's a point there with the treble where if you push it too high, it does dig out a little bit of the, sounds like the mids. That's pretty gnarly, that. So let's turn the gain all the way down again. Let's see what the scoop setting does. And a little bit more gain. Chuck it all the way up. Alright, so roll back the gain. So the volume definitely does play a big part rolling it back. You get very different characteristics, but kind of makes it a little bit too hollow because we're just going straight off the pedal and not through an amp head and utilizing its characteristics. So rolling back could sound really cool if you're blending it with something else like an amp head and speakers like this, but because we've got this just under the spotlight itself, we need to keep the volume pretty cranked. So we'll say it's a very tight sound considering we've got nothing else running through this. So it's doing a lot just on its own, which is pretty cool. So there's actually a lot you can go through with this with the 3 different settings. So let's just set the gain a bit past 12 o'clock, so high noon, so a bit past, so about 1-ish, 2 o'clock-ish. I'll leave the bass and treble roughly in the middle. Leave the volume the same because I like it just at that point there where it's kind of really helping push to give that broken sound what it needs to have the distortion that we like. Because rolled back anymore, it becomes a little bit too not powerful enough of a signal just running it through the pedal. As I said before, it'd be different if we're running through an amp head or something like that, but for this video, we're not. So we're gonna have to keep it a bit pushed. So let's just go through the 3 different settings again, just to kind of remind ourselves, and I'll see which one I want to pick for the jam. So this is raw. Then we've got fat. Then scooped. You can just hear all the mid frequencies just drop as soon as you go from fat to scoop. Back to raw. No, that's fat. Back to raw. Back to fat. So I've got myself in a little bit of a loop because I don't know what to actually do. So I'm jamming through each different one, trying to find something that is the highlight out of all the different settings, but they're also different. And they all do so many different, like good and bad things. So it's very hard to think what's the best approach to do this. So I kind of just got to commit and go for it. So before I just drag on too much, just keep going backwards and forwards and all that, I might just leave it to this. Yeah, I still feel like I want to tinker with it a little bit more. But I'll leave it at this. So this is on the fat setting. So I'm going to compose a little jingle with the fat settings here, share it with you. So I'll double up on the guitars, add bass and drums. And yeah, we'll see what it sounds like. Normally what I do is put a little bit of dirt on the bass as well, because that's how I like my bass to be a little bit grindy. I might actually roll that back and use a little bit more of a rawer bass signal running through, because this is already pretty... has got a lot of that same type of characteristics anyway, so I don't want the bass and the guitars to kind of mesh and clash, not so much clash, but mesh too much where you can't differentiate between the two. So I'll try that and see how it sounds. Might be good, might be bad, we'll find out. So I'll do a jam, share it with you all, set up in the Brady Bunch format where I've got all the different takes into different squares. Now, and I'm also getting to the habit also, straight after that, I'll do just a little snigget of just the guitars isolated, doubled up, so you can hear how that sounds when they're put into stereo. And then we'll have a chat about it on the other side. So sit back, relax, enjoy the jam, and I'll see you all on the other side. Time for my final thoughts on the TC Electronics Fang metal distortion. There's actually quite a bit to say about this, but I will say having the three different modes, the raw, the fat and the scoop, means you can do a lot with these, with this pedal, which is really cool. The gain, I felt like even when you push that fully, it didn't break up. I'm kind of trying to cover them all full, as in all three of them at once. So in all of them, when we pushed the gain fully, it didn't break up the sound so much where it was unlistenable, for lack of a better term. The volume, I actually really like the volume because we pushed it pretty hot, which we had to because we had this under spotlight and we're making this pedal do all the work. But it's really cool that you can kind of use that to really help shape and push with whichever amp head you might be going through as well to really help shape the sound that you might be after as well. So it's cool that you've got that option there with the volume and it's not just a straight, we're going to make it louder or softer. It actually does help and works really well together with the gain and how it shapes and manipulates the sound, which is really cool. And I'm going to say the same thing about the bass and the treble with this pedal. It's certain frequencies it has, as you dialed in more, it did take out some other things as well, which normally I'm not a big fan of, but with this it's a little bit, I don't want to use the term raw because there's a setting called raw, but I can't think of a better way to describe it. It's a little bit raw when you're going straight through just only this pedal. So if we're going through amp and speakers, and I know I've said this a couple of times already in this video, you'll be able to utilize their characteristics to help shape the sounds, and they wouldn't be as harsh as what they are just going straight from this pedal. Now also, in saying that, I feel like this is just a kind of a but only type of scenario, but it's kind of true. The hiss that we had coming through this, you probably would have noticed it in the isolated version that I put here as well, of the jam that I did with just the guitars by themselves. There's a lot of hiss coming through. Now, we did push these pretty hot, so there's going to be a bit of hiss. And I'm not fazed about that because, here's something I prepared earlier. I don't know why I grabbed a TC Electronic ones, like I'm sponsored by the brand. I'm not. It just happens that I own a few of their things. Like this pedal here, a noise gate which also takes out a lot of the hiss and a lot of the noise. So if you were to chain this pedal up with this, that would eliminate that problem immediately. So having something like this alongside it would be perfect. So I'm not too strange, and I'm not going to start giving it crosses because of the hiss. But in saying that though, the scoop section, as a kind of a highlighter thing I noticed, didn't have as much hiss, and it was actually very tight. It tightened up the sound a lot while I was playing some stop-start, a couple little riffs here and there, which I was very surprised with. So yeah, definitely a plus there. So the only question is, with all the different type of sounds you can get from this, being the raw, the fat, and the scoop that they've titled on here, the big question is, can you get the sound that you actually want? So the sound I went for, I kind of had to just accept to move on, because otherwise the video could have gone on for easily over an hour with me just going backwards and forwards trying to fine tune the best that I could from this pedal, which in saying that is a pretty good thing. The fact that I felt like I was nearly there and I kept wanting to push it more and more is good, because that means there's a lot that you can get out of this and you can explore and experiment with it. But I had to kind of settle on something so I could move on. So the thing that I settled with was a little bit more saturated than how I normally would go, which is why it inspired me to do that little jam that I did, which is a song that I did for Shadows at Bay that we released in 2020. So I just stole the drums from that session and added the guitars and bass to it. So it's kind of easy as well doing it that way, because I knew the track like the back of my hand. And I felt like the little bit more saturated tone with a little bit more bottom end in the guitar compared to how I would have it suited that pretty nicely. There was definitely a big difference between the mix and having the guitars isolated, because I felt like that tone, when I added the bass and the drums to it, sitted in really nicely and was nice and warm. And you can still hear the guitars very well. But as soon as you took out the bass and the drums, I felt like it lost not so much a lot of its body, but it definitely lost a lot of its dynamic and became a little bit, I think, hollow would be a good description to use. Not overly hollow where it sounded like it was played out of a tin can, not at all. But just in regards to the lack of dynamics it had compared to when we had the bass and drums in there. Not a bad thing, just an observation. But my observation, you might think differently. So all in all, I was very surprised in this pedal, and there's a lot that can be to it. So I think I may need to do a couple more videos on this, hooking it up maybe with an amp and speakers, or trying different settings on there and seeing what else we can do. And I'm even keen, because of the versatility that you can get from this. I wonder how it sounds with a 7-string guitar too added to it. That could be pretty cool to see if it holds up with it, or if those lower tones might be too much for it. I'm not sure. I mean, you can only really find out by plugging it in and giving it a shot. So now let me put it back to you then. How do you feel about so what are your thoughts on this pedal? How did you feel while I was dialing it in, coming up with all the different different voicings, for lack of a better term, with the different options it has on here? How did you feel when it was in the mix? How did you feel while it was isolated? And how do you feel about a pedal that can do so much as well? Do you prefer a pedal that just does one thing amazingly, or do you like this where it's got a few things so you can utilize more and be a little bit more experimental? Yeah, so what are your thoughts on it? Yeah, TC Electronic FANGS metal distortion. A lot better than what I thought it was going to be. Not that I thought it was going to be crap or anything, but it's definitely a pleasant surprise running through it. So in saying that, I think I have babbled on enough now. So I will do my usual sign off. Whether this video is in the foreground or the background, I absolutely appreciate your company and being a part of these conversations. Just like all the YouTube videos, yeah, leave any thoughts in the comments below. So not only to have the conversation with me, but everyone else in this community as well. So we can all chime in and give our 2 cents worth on what we think about it. And thank you to everyone that reached out, not only in the comments in other videos and this one as well, but on my Facebook page too, because I have a couple of people contact me there talking about different pedals and different ideas I can have too, and I love hearing from them and giving me suggestions, because that really helps me shape this channel and where I can go. And in saying that, please, until next time, stay safe.